What's up everybody, I'm Jason. Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I am going to show you how I have rigged out my R5C for shooting in the field. Now, obviously, there's a lot of ways to go about doing this. This is just one of them. You're gonna need to take maybe some tips and hints from this, some thoughts about some other things, what you need, etc., and put together your own solution, but hopefully this gives you some idea of a starting point. So we'll start with the camera. The camera is mounted in a small rig Black Mamba cage for the Canon R5 and R6. Now, small rig does have a cage that they have just released that's specific for the R5C. I don't particularly care for it. I made a deliberate choice when I spec'd this or purchased this to go for the R5 and R6 cage, and the difference comes down to right here where the remote terminal is. Now, in my studio setup, I actually use the remote terminal. I have a system that ties in through an Arduino to the rest of my recording system that I use to remotely trigger the camera from my teleprompter software that I have put together. So having access to that is really important to me, so that's why I'm using this cage. Now the new cage from Small Rig for the R5C specifically has a threaded socket there that you can use to mount directly to the rail for their mini follow focus, which on a cage like this requires this extra NATO rail to 15 millimeter rail mount adapter. So obviously, since I have that on, the next part of this for me is I do in fact have a follow focus. It's the Small Rig one again that I have rigged up and mounted to the camera. Again, short piece of rail comes with the follow focus that I'm using. Now, prior to having a follow focus on a cinema camera, or on any camera for that matter, I wasn't completely sold. I understood the value of them, but I wasn't completely sold. If you shoot video and you do any manual focus pulling at all whatsoever, you really should get a follow focus of some sort. It doesn't have to be small rigs. It could be Tiltas. It could be Red Rock Micros. It could be one of the higher end ones. But what I have found is it dramatically makes pulling focus so much easier. Now, I probably would have potentially even skipped the whole thing of having a follow focus if it wasn't for the fact that the way the R5C handles servo focusing for movie servo, or for focusing at all times, it's not as fast as the non-recording focusing that you can have in an R5. So the R5C makes the assumption, I've said this in other videos, doesn't make the assumption that because it's not recording to the card, the camera isn't being recorded externally. And so it does everything with the intention that it is constantly providing a video feed. This includes, as a total aside, this includes even if you're in the menus, if you have a monitor plugged into the external HDMI port on a camera like the R5, when you hit the menu button, the sensor shuts off and you get menus and that's it. On the R5C, it will continue to stream a full quality video picture while you're in the menus making adjustments. So to make this whole thing a little bit easier to carry, I have the top handle. So when I bought my Black Mamba cage, it came with the top handle, and it was the cage and top handle. I put my handle facing forward instead of backwards like most pictures tend to show. I find it balances better when you have a lens on. It lets you do kind of movements and whatnot a little easier, a little bit better balanced in that configuration. Now, when shooting in the field, audio is a thing, and of course, if depending on what you're doing, I can either hook up, I have Rode's Wireless Go lavalier system that I can use if I want to have, if I'm shooting the kind of audio where I need me to have good audio regardless of where I am with the camera. Or if, like, part of the reason I have this haul rigged out this way is to shoot wildlife and landscapes in Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park, which is the next project that I have coming up, you need some kind of audio, off-camera audio of some sort, preferably. My solution to that is a Rode Wire Video Mic Pro. It's fairly old. This is, I think, their first generation of that. It's been upgraded and updated, but I haven't replaced mine. Now, I did have to make a modification. So the cool thing about this black or small rig Black Mamba handle is it has a cold shoe in the top that has a locking mechanism so that you can snap something in, it will lock and it will not come out. Now, I did have to file off a little bit of the corners on my video mic to make it fit in that that cold shoe, but once it's snapped in, it does not come out. And of course, you can still tighten down the mount on the microphone. So now the big question with the R5, or the big problem with the R5C, is power consumption. It will burn through the LPE6 battery like nobody's business. And I am looking at all kinds of options for that broad picture, but what I have settled on for the interim at least is the conventional USB power delivery battery pack. And quite honestly, I actually like USB power delivery in this situation. In a traveling situation, I am finding that it makes it very easy to have a fairly wide variety of devices all kind of covered under one envelope for whichever way I want to go. So my laptop, my tablet, my camera, my other camera, my R5, my GoPro is USB Type-C, though it doesn't need power delivery. I can charge my phone, etc. So one of these battery packs gives you a pretty significant amount of flexibility in what you can charge, not just powering your camera. And of course, there's options and mechanisms to run multiple devices off of this. So if I was taking, for example, my F6 audio recorder, I can tap the Type A port on here with a Type A to Type C cable and power that off of this, and have basically all of the camera stuff that I need to powered off of this one battery pack. So this battery pack specifically is an Anker PowerCore Elite 3, I think it is, something like that. It's sold as part of their 735 or 745 kits. They've changed all their numbering, Anker. This is a 96 watt hour battery. It's capable of delivering 85 watts across all 4 ports. There's 2 USB Type A's, there's 2 Type C's. Both of the Type C ports can deliver sufficient power to power the R5C. So that's 27 watts, 3 amps at 9 volts. There are some limitations on which ones you can use for certain operations. So charging multiple devices, the ports have specific limits, in which case you want to be on the, well, they say rightmost, so it's rightmost from looking at the back of the thing. You want to be using this port here to charge the camera. Now the question with all of this kind of USB power delivery stuff is, well, how do you mount it and how do you handle that? So mounting is a little bit convoluted, and this is something I have definitely cobbled together, but I haven't found a better solution yet. To start with, the Black Mamba cage has a cold shoe right here over the power switch. It's not maybe the greatest cold shoe or most secure cold shoe, but it is a cold shoe. I have, from when I was doing photography, these Really Right Stuff quick release flash system connectors. So it's a base and it's a part that you mount on your flash. So what I have done is I have put one of their flash mounts on essentially it's a generic hot shoe adapter for things like lights or GoPros or whatever, to mount them so that you can slide them into a hot shoe and clamp it down. And I basically have that mounted in the cold shoe, tightened down so that it's pretty reasonable. Well, it's not going anywhere. Let's just put it that way. I get it cranked down pretty good. On the bottom of the battery, which I have, you can see it's already kind of wrapped up, I have a Camvate mini cheese plate. I'll put a link to this specific one in the description, but it was nice enough to have slots cut in it in addition to all of the holes for mounting. So I have the quick release mounted in it, and then I have Think Tank red whips to provide some elastic attachment to the battery to the plate, and then I have a cinch strap that wraps around the long end. I just have the connector on this side. It wraps around, loops through the other end of the cheese plate and then back. And then this whole thing snaps onto the quick release and sits essentially on the side of the camera. So I know it looks kind of bulky, but it's actually not all that heavy. Now, power for that, I have tried two different options, and this is the one that I have settled on. So the Black Mamba cage comes with a cable clamp from Small Rig. And the cable clamp, it's a very secure cable clamp, but I ended up not electing to not use it because it interfered with being able to plug in a microphone. The bracket for the cable clamp sits in the way of the microphone. So what I found is a USB cable that Type-C with a right angle connector on one end. It's not strictly necessary, but a Type-C cable that fits incredibly snugly in, or at least very snugly, in the Canon cable protector that they ship with the camera. And it's sufficiently snug in there that I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going to twist on the port. Now, on top of that, it's a short cable. It's only a foot long, which is short enough or long enough to get to the battery, but not so long as to pose a real hazard in terms of catching on anything externally. So I route the cable out the side, around the mount for the battery, pull it tight, plug it in, and that is the back end of the cable. And this is essentially my setup for shooting with the R5C in the field. Now, I will put links to all of the stuff that I have used in the description below. This is possibly not the end-all solution. I have not fully field tested it. That's what I'll be doing in the next couple of weeks while I'm in Yellowstone. But so far in my limited testing and less than field conditions, this has worked really well. Oh, I should add, I have, for the vast majority of my lenses, I have seamless focus ring gears on them. I'm using the ones from Tilta because Tilta makes ones big enough to fit on the Canon 24-70 and 15-35. Unfortunately, they don't make one big enough to fit on the 100-500, which is the lens I really wanted one for. But the Small Rig micro follow focus does come with an adjustable sized lens gear, which is what I'm using on that lens to allow me to basically use the follow focus for that. So as I said, I'll put all the links to everything in the description. If this was useful or informative for you, let me know by hitting that like button. If you know somebody who might find this useful, be a hero, share it with them. It'll help them, it'll help me, and obviously it makes you look like the good guy in the whole thing. And of course, if this kind of thing seems like it might be your kind of thing, please consider subscribing if you're not already. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.